Thank you so much for your kind introduction. It's my great pleasure to be with the young African leaders, the Mandela Washington Scholars, for my 10th year in a row. I've been here since the beginning of the program and have seen you in various places around this presidential precinct, from up in Charlottesville to here in Colonial Williamsburg and at the college. And it's always a joy to meet the new class that's coming in, because although each of you are unique and each one is different, there are powerful similarities that run through all of the classes, because the great powerful similarity is that every one of you is a leader where you are. And one of the things that causes so much joy when we come together is the continent is so big, from Cape Town to Tunis, and from the Gambia to Somalia. It's just a massive continent. And so where you are in your countries, in your towns and cities, maybe villages, you might think that you're the only one who is doing the thing that you're doing. You might think you're the only one who is trying to promote peace and humanitarianism and change and democracy and understanding. You might feel all alone. And then you travel several thousand miles across the ocean, and you arrive here and you meet others who have been doing things very much like what you've been doing, and you go, oh my goodness, I thought I was by myself, and now I see I'm part of an important community that is about the business of making change. And so it makes your heart stronger, doesn't it? It makes you feel with joy. It makes you understand that there are powerful connections in the world, and that you are part of those connections. And interestingly enough, that you come here to Colonial Williamsburg and to the college here at a very important time in American history. This is the year 2024. In 1776, there was a revolution where these colonies broke free from English rule. That's just 2 years away. If you were 250 years back in time, the moments leading up to the force, the ideas, the discussions that were leading to that change were already underway. The Boston Tea Party had already occurred at 250 years ago, and so events were underway. So you come here to this place to talk about democracy and understanding and justice and freedom and humanitarianism at the very moment in time when we were about to say it's been 250 years since we stood up for freedom. Now, oddly enough, it wasn't pure freedom for everybody, was it? People who have skin colors like yours and mine arrived here in 1619 in boats right up James River. You can go to Jamestown. You ought to go and see where people taken from Africa were brought here in bondage. Now, people will say, some of the historians say, well, you know, they came here, they were under contract. None of them sought to come here. Everybody was captured and brought here, the people of color, and made to struggle here and made to seek freedom here. But then over time, somebody like me who has predecessors who were brought here in bondage can become a justice of the Supreme Court or a leader in the community. So change is in the air. And of course, change is what we make. Change doesn't occur on its own. Dr. King talked about the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I hope that you're familiar with that in that speech. That was one of the last speeches he ever gave, when people were saying to him, how long, Dr. King, how long? And he was saying, not long, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But the part that is not stated often is that the arc doesn't move on its own. You have to lean into the arc of the universe and push it. That's what all of you have done where you are already. And so we didn't bring you here to turn you into leaders. We didn't bring you here to make you something different from what you are. We brought you here so you can see that you are part of a community of leaders that are already making change in the world. We hope that when you leave here, you will have a stronger sense of yourselves. You'll have a stronger understanding of what you can do. You can believe that a person pushing against the arc of the moral universe can change whole nations, can change the alignment and the understanding and the philosophies of the world. We want you to come here to continue being builders. Now, in the introduction, you were told that I'm a poet, and that's the truth. I can't help it. When I was 4 years old, my grandfather figured out that I had a pretty amazing memory, and so he decides to teach me poetry at 4 years old. And he doesn't teach me Mary Had a Little Lamb. He teaches me complex, rhythmic, romantic poetry. And I've had it in me. I'm 73 years old now, so for 70 years almost, I've been able to stand up and recite poems from the time I was so little you could hold me in your lap. But one of the poems that strikes me that ought to mean something to you is Longfellow's poem, The Builders. And he said, and he could have known that you were coming all those years ago, he said that all are architects of fate, working in these walls of time, some with massive deeds and great, some with ornaments of rhyme. Nothing useless is or low. Each thing in its place is best, and what seems but idle show strengthens and supports the rest. For the structure that we raise, time is with materials filled. Our todays and yesterdays are the blocks with which we build. Truly shape and fashion these. Leave no yawning gaps between. Think not, because no one sees, that such things shall remain unseen. In the elder days of art, builders wrought with greatest care each minute and unseen part, for the gods see everywhere. Let us do our work as well, both the unseen and the seen. Make the house where gods may dwell beautiful, entire, and clean, lest our lives are incomplete, standing in these walls of time, broken stairways where the feet stumble as they seek to climb. Build today then strong and sure, on a firm and ample base, and ascending and secure shall tomorrow find its place. Thus alone can we attain to those turrets where the eye sees the world as one vast plain and one boundless reach of sky. We want you to be builders, and we want you to understand just the power of change when you use your mind and you look for the truth and justice and understanding in what you do. I talked at the graduation commencement about this odd thing about the very College of William and Mary. This college was created by British royalty, the King and Queen of England back in the 1600s. And yet, of all the places in America, this place that was created by British royalty became the very spot where the thought and the ideas of people led to the revolution right here. Now, isn't that odd? And so I said at graduation, just think, when the problems in America as seen from England kept increasing, the English royalty must have been saying, well, you know, we might have to worry about Massachusetts, or we might have to worry about Carolina, but we don't have to worry about Virginia. We put a royal school in Virginia. If anybody is going to be loyal to us, it's going to have to be those Virginians, because people don't bite the hand that feeds them. Don't you figure? They say, well, look, that's the only royal college we have. We just gave them land, money, all kinds of things. Yet, this is the place that turned most strongly. How does that happen? But the thought I had and what I said at graduation was this. They said that they were building a college of the liberal arts and other good sciences for all time coming. Now, people get it wrong about what the liberal arts are. People think it's just like the standard course of study. But if you look back to the Greeks, the liberal arts were the ars liberalis. They were the skills of freedom. And the skills of freedom were to be able to think well, to write well, to speak grammar, logic, rhetoric, talk well, write well, think well, and so forth. So if you follow the skills of freedom in all your lives, if you think well and write well and speak well and you search for the truth might lead you against the very institution that created you, because they were authoritarians, the king and queen of England. They ruled by fiat. They ruled, they said, by divine right. They could just make up a law that didn't exist yesterday, and all of a sudden it's a new law today, and if you messed up, you go to jail right off. You don't go to trial or anything. But the students here at the school that they created, searching for truth through the liberal arts, came up with the idea that doesn't make sense. That doesn't follow. The one thing doesn't come from the other. And so if I'm going to really be faithful to the mission that I was given, then it might even mean that I turn against the person who paid for me to have an education, who created the education for me. Another thing that I think is important in your lives is that wherever you are, and you've done this already, you become the light. You become a beacon, don't you? People pay attention to you. People listen to you. News people call you. Can you give me a quote? Can you discuss this issue in our country? Being the light is very important, and sharing the light is very powerful. In many speeches, I've talked to young people about the fact that if you have a candle and you walked into a room that was completely dark, but everybody had candles that were unlit, you could take your one candle and share the light that you have and light the whole room, because the candle that lights another candle burns no less brightly. Do you see that? When you share light, you share knowledge, you share understanding, you don't lose anything. That's a rare feature in life, isn't it? You share a hamburger, you got less hamburger. You share grain, you share the water from a river, you have less water. But when it comes to knowledge and understanding and hope and justice and light, you can share it, and instead of it decreasing, it increases. That's what we want you doing. Everywhere you go, sharing that kind of light, that kind of good, that kind of understanding, making that kind of difference in the world. And because I care so much about the nature of light and what it does for us, now the poem I just did, that was Longfellow, who writes in a style very like my own, or putting it the other way, I write in a style like his. But this is my own poem. It's called Light the Soul. Now I was actually being a lawyer. We were buying the land for a movie studio in Virginia, and we were closing the deal on this land, and I was sitting there thinking about the nature of light as we do, somebody else was doing the paperwork. And I'm sitting there thinking, they say that in Scripture it says, God said, let there be light. The physicists say that in the Big Bang, the first thing you would have seen was light. If you were filming a movie, the first thing the director says is lights, camera, action. And so I got this light in my hand, and I wrote, while I was sitting at this deal, I said, light lay quietly at the beginning, till it was called into action by God. Then it split the darkness, warmed the cold, brought motion to the stillness, touched our souls. And they say there is light at the end. As we brace ourselves for the final journey, the word is there is light even then. Light that blinds you, binds you, then sets you free. From Alpha to Omega, the light shines through. From dawn to dusk, it orders what we do. By particle and wave, it prompts the birds to sing. By pulse and reflection, it points out the way. Light can lift depression, dispel despair, bring hope to the weary, lead us from fear. Light can raise up emotions, quiet the storm, beckon us from rolling seas into the calm. We learn by light. We grow by light. We sit in the dark, transfixed by its sight. And as the light flickers, our hearts respond. We can see the connections. We can feel the bonds. It has been given to some to handle the light, to mold it, to craft it, to bend it to right. It has fallen to some to sculpt what we see, to sharpen, to brighten, to make it run free. To those who would hold light in their hands, there is much to remember, to understand. In the right light, love can shine. In the right light, we can leave wrong behind. By the light, there is good we can know. In the light, justice can grow like the soul.